What's up, everybody? I am building my tack bow, or my Mathews Lift 33. It's a longer axle-to-axle bow than what I've been shooting. I've been hunting with the RX-8. Love the bow, but now we're going to go to a Lift 33. I didn't get to choose colors. I'm trying to choose colors based on what's available to customers, and obviously the Lift has been hard to get. I may like hunt pigs or go hunt an axis or something like that. It's not going to be a dedicated hunting bow for me, so I'm going to set it up a little bit differently than what you normally see. And a lot of guys may argue with, hey, set up the same way you're going to hunt. I'm putting a back bar setup on this and a front bar. And if you know me, I rarely hunt with a back bar. Just mentally, I can't do it. I'm not Levi. I'm not one of the great archers of all time, so like mentally, I can't get over the back bar. So I usually shoot with a front bar and nothing in the back. This bow is going to be front and back bars. A Mathews version of the Hamskea. So we're going to do the Hamskea Epsilon. And it's just got the core mount on it with the Mathews circle. I've not decided on what arrows I'm going to shoot. I'm probably shooting the Easton Long Range 4 mils. And the only reason for that is so that I have longer shot availability because they're a lighter arrow, and I really like 4 mils. Hamskea dampeners, you want it as close down to the limb as possible to absorb the vibration and keep the slack out of it. So I see guys that are running them up here. It just takes a second, but you need to go ahead and run this up where, I mean, it's as close as possible once tied down. So all I'm doing is walking this up the string a little bit. Pull that tight. See how it stretches it? There, I'm just a smidge above. Once it's tightened, it's going to be sitting about in here. So I'm just a smidge above where we want it right now. And I'm going to leave this part, I'm going to loosen it in a second, but we want the rest to be up so that when we put our D-loop on and our arrow, we can actually level the bow out. See, we got to be careful on the lift. If you run to the inside of the limb, we're going to have a connection there. It's going to hit. So I'm going to come from the outside to tie off, if that makes sense. See how we have a gap now? I pull it, and it kind of slipped into where I wanted it. It's pretty good right there. This part, once that's on, I'm going to burn it down. Well, burn it on down. Just trying to get this in here where it sits tight, and it's not going to come undone. So now I'm going to reverse this. So I'm right-handed, and I have to work certain ways, like mentally. I'm going to flip this back around now. I'm shooting this bow. I actually shot one. I'm going to shoot a 28-inch draw length. I think I'm going to put this at a 20. Sorry, I shoot a 29. I think I'm going to put this one at a 29.5. I could shoot 30, but I always feel too extended with it. So I'm going to start with a 29.5. We're going to start this bow build with a 300 spine. And that's what I'm going to start with, is a long range with a 300 spine. And right now, just with a blazer, we all know that I'm not going to shoot a blazer in the end, but we're going to run this bow setup with a blazer. So I'm going to level my bow now. I know my rest that I'm using. I know the arrow that I'm using. And so I just need to make sure that I get it level in the vise, which, this Baker Archery product, I don't think there's anything on the market that comes close to it. So if you'll look now, we've got, the arrow is not level, we've got a level bow. That's our starting point, is our level bow. One thing I like to do is I use an eyeball test. It sounds crazy. Sometimes I'll pull out my little chair and sit down. I know the bow's level, and I can tell my arrow is slanted down. And I'm going to use a burger hole over here as a good starting point of where I want. So now my rest is level, my bow is level, and if you can see, we'll put the camera on this side, the burger hole is where I'm going to kind of start my center shot on this bow. We're noticing that the arrow's kind of covering it up. There might be a slight lean, and I don't mind being just a smidge knock high, because I would rather have to take the rest up than take it down, but that's usually a really good starting point if you don't have all of the tools. The next thing I'm going to do is not for everyone, and not everybody's going to take the time to do this. I'm going to install a laser on this bow, and it's going to tell me my left and right is dead down center. And what that does, we're going to follow the cam down the string, down the center of the rest, down the tip of the arrow, and make slight adjustments till it's all lined out. And we'll do that step by step. But what that does, it's gonna save me time when I go to paper. Like I know it's my grip or my spine if I'm having issues with left or right tears. So weird attaching something to the side of a Mathews because we don't do it very often anymore. Everything's bridge lock, so now we're locked in there. This is just a little laser. I'm gonna make sure my bow stays level. It's very important. So right now we're gonna use this laser. I'm gonna loosen this piece here. I'm gonna take this piece and I'm gonna tighten it just a smidge. We want it following the string right there so we know where it hits the cam. So we're in the center of the string. And all that I'm going to do is follow, hopefully keep it down the center of the string, through the peep sight. Moved off just a little bit. This stuff takes just a second to get it just right. So we're still on it, still on it. And guys, so now we're gonna notice the string all the way down to the arrow. This is huge, so now we're gonna keep following down. And we're seeing, if you notice, we're starting to fall off the side of the arrow. So we went from center to falling off the side of the arrow. So one thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make, luckily this is a Hamskea. This is the Epsilon, and it is micro tunable. So I'm gonna, first of all, do this, lighten it up a little bit. And we have to move everything just a little bit. See, so we don't have it, we're still on there, or we're still on there. So just a little bit of movement. If you see, now we're still in the center of the knock. So we're center of the knock, all the way up the string. Back down, center of the knock, arrow, middle of the arrow rest, and down. Fall off just a little bit out there, and we can make that adjustment, which we'll see. We do have clearance here, but we did kind of max that out to the inside. So that's just, this is not a cure-all, but this will save you some time. These are just a little OMP laser to set up. Takes a little bit to get used to them and learn how to use them, but it saves time on the paper tune if the spine of the arrow is correct. Yeah, I bet I still have to move my rest back over, but even doing that whole eyeball test, which is silly, is my string's in line and my arrow looks really good. Checking everything there. That I've moved around. So I'm gonna move my knock up just a smidge. We talked about that. In order to save some time for me, I do not run knocking points, okay? I run a D-loop. And so now I know where my D-loop needs to go when I take these off. I'm not gonna do a full detail on how to tie a D-loop because the D-loop is already, video's already down below, but that's where I'm starting. This takes time and it takes effort, but it will save you some time in the end. So I'm gonna take this D-loop and just kind of round ball the end of it. You'll see me a lot of times, I smash ends. I'm gonna try to just do this the way everybody else does it, but do it the way you want to. You can see how when it's hot, you can roll it and roll it into kind of a ball. That's fine. So after I get my first knot, I will tell you, I tighten the crap out of it. And then I'm gonna set my arrow back in here. There's a little bit of a gap between that, and that's fine. It's gonna cinch down a little bit. There's a little bit of gap. And I also, when I put the bottom one on, I wanna be able to have movement so that I know that at full draw, I'm not gonna have knock pinch. So we got that there. I'm gonna rotate this around so I don't burn my string. I think that's one thing everybody does is they forget about where their flames are and they wind up burning their string or something else. So I always like my flame going up because flames are going to go up. So if you're in here and you're underneath tying stuff, you're gonna burn your string. We don't wanna do that. This one I am gonna smash. It's a little long there. I'm gonna let it burn down. I'm gonna rotate it up and smash it. Cinch those down, make sure I got pretty good movement here. And we've got some pretty sweet D-loop pliers here. I like the reverse ones. Somehow this one has a bunch of glue on it, but whatever. So I'm gonna start with these small ones. While I'm holding this, I'm holding those together. Then I'm gonna go in slightly longer there. I probably need to go a little bit longer on this D-loop because I shoot a thumb and a hinge, and I've got to make sure that I'm not, see how I'm not tightening the string? So we're gonna see if that rotates the arrow at all. All these small steps before we go shooting, I know, people. See how it's not rotating the arrow at all? That should be good. I'll probably let it stretch a little bit more, and that's when I'm gonna go ahead and use these Easton reverse ones. There we go. I've installed my rest, and I've lasered down the string through the rest on my arrow. I've selected my arrow, and I've installed my D-loop. Get ready to cinch down this ham ski. That's the one thing about this new clip on the ham ski, is it allows you to go ahead and work on your rest and get everything leveled. It does take a second to get it crimped down pretty good. I'm still gonna tie these backup knots to help this from rotating. So I just put these, you're still gonna have stretch, and you're gonna have to come in here and undo these knots, and that's the one negative thing that I've found about the ham skis. Number two negative thing is that it doesn't stay up when you're trying to tune the bow, and so you've gotta do something like this. So I leave this loose. Not everybody does. The reason I don't burn that in too big is so that I can come back in and access it. Again, this is only a Total Archery Challenge bow or target bow for me. And so I don't care about that piece right there. Now we have all the main parts that would allow me to tune the bow. I think one thing that people mess up on when they're setting up their bows is they'll go shoot it without their peep in it. That becomes an issue. I'm gonna actually make sure we get our draw length right, and then I'll put my peep in it. So what I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna make sure I've got the right mullet on it, make sure the draw lengths fit me right, and I like the way it feels. You can have somebody kind of look at you and make sure that you've got just a little bit of a nose contact, very crossing our face, and not a lot of face contact back here, and that your anchor point's in the right spot. So that's what we're gonna do right now, is just check the draw length, and then I'll come back and make sure my peep's in the right height at the right spot. All right, let's go check the draw length. It's got a 29.5 on it. Luckily, it actually had an E, which is on the 33 of 29.5. I may not like it if my arm's too extended. I'm gonna switch back over to 29. I shoot real good with a 29. All that I'm looking at right now is my draw length. And a lot of people will be like, hey, he didn't check his cam timing. I'm gonna check my draw length first, and then we'll check the timing on the bow, because that's gonna be very important before we finish a tune. This is where I'm starting right now, is we're gonna get the draw length, and then we'll go adjust our timing. The 29.5 feels really good to me. I'm able to extend a little bit forward. I'm gonna stick to 29.5. I use this little blue spot as this little tie-in, as a reference. I know my peep has to go higher. So I'm gonna put it about right there and draw back again and kind of check it before I go. So that gives me a good starting spot. I'm gonna put the peep in it, and then we'll check timing. On my peep, I'm just running a Radical peep. It's a Super Deuce 38. It's a 3/16 Hunter. I don't get fancy. I think that there is definitely a reason to run a Hamsky peep. It's probably one of the best out there, or specialty archery and all those. Like, they're really, really good. I just don't. Like, I just don't personally. Radical piece, Super Deuce 38. Not a big old peep, and it aligns with most of the sights that I use. I will say that having ran through over 80 of these bows, we've been pretty impressed with the match strings so far. So you can see that the peep is pretty dang stable. As the bow presses and unpresses, it's stable. A little bit of a movement, but not a ton. Okay, now like we said, we're gonna set up the timing on this bow. And I have not shot these strings in yet, and so I know that I will have to adjust my timing just a little bit as I shoot the bow more and I'm tuning it. So just a heads up on that. Like, you can't just tune your bow, like take a brand new bow off the wall, time it, and not expect to make any changes. That's why guys that buy from us know that we tune the bow free for a year. It's not like when you buy from us, we'll check timing and everything. So if you look on this bow, believe it or not, the timing is absolutely dead on in sync. See, I mean dead on. I don't expect it to stay that way. I expect us to have to make some timing adjustments as we tune this bow. What I'm doing now is I'm going, not all of you are going to have this option, but I'm going to go to a Hooters shooter. Normally Ian would mark this for me, but for video purposes, we're going to put it on the Hooters shooter, draw it back, and I'm going to mark where I'm going to cut my arrow. And people are going to be like, well, you don't know this spine. I mean, I've shot bows long enough, and you will too, that you're going to kind of know where your arrow needs to be cut for your particular bows to tune out. So I'm going to take this Easton Axis long range 300 spine, and I'm going to cut it into my burger hole inside my riser. So I want a little bit shorter arrow for this so that I get a little bit lighter arrow. Now that will make my arrow stiffer. If it doesn't tune, I'm not gonna stress because I'm only messing with one arrow. I'll go back, and if it's too stiff, I'm gonna switch to a 340. That's my mindset right now. Like, I'm not gonna cut a dozen arrows. We're gonna cut one arrow, work on the tuning, and then we'll probably get up to 3 arrows. And if I have any issues with one of the 3 arrows, then I'll start sorting through arrows to make sure I've got a perfect batch, because I want this bow to be perfectly tuned. All I'm doing is drawing this bow back to full draw. And I'm gonna mark my arrow. So all I'm doing is I'm gonna mark my arrow to be cut like right here. And what that means is, as I look at this, I know that my outstart's gonna go to about here. So we still have clearance between the rest in it, and my field points and broadheads will be inside the riser. Okay, so like if I am gonna shoot a big fixed blade, I'm gonna want it out in front of my fingers, and so I'm gonna cut out here out in front of the riser, right here-ish, and try to make sure it tunes good. That's me personally. I still shoot like slick tricks. I'm still gonna cut in the center of the riser. If I'm shooting a big, massive two blade, I'm cutting in front of the riser, so it's well in front of my hand. I think it's more mentally for me, unless I have to come back and trim the arrow for spine issues. So now you can tell we got a perfectly straight end. Now we're gonna put an outsert on it. And on this arrow, I'm gonna be running the old components, mainly just because I don't have the new components from these yet that are being released in this month. We have a bunch on the way, just don't have them. So I'm going to put a good amount of glue on here. We're good there. We're gonna go run through paper. Give this a second, just a second. Should be muy bueno. I will be switching vanes, just to be very clear. We're trying to get this video done for y'all. You usually run a 26, like I like the hybrid 26s. We're just gonna shoot through paper real quick. So, first shot with a bow, absolute first shot. This is in another video that we did, you can go see it, but this is the first shot. And I'd say we're pretty freaking good. I'm not gonna make a big adjustment to that. We can see that we're slightly, ever so slightly, gonna have our vane a little bit to the left, but I'm fine with that. We even have clean cuts with it. I'm good. Again, you can go make those small tuning adjustments that you're gonna find on the Easton tuning guide. Step by step. If you're gonna do it, you're gonna be using micro adjust. I'm a big proponent of arrow rests that have micro adjust and tuning ability on them, because you're gonna see that in 1 second when we go in here and we start broadhead tuning this bow. I'm gonna throw my stabilizers on, because we know we need to do that. And then I'm gonna throw a sight on. I'm not sure exactly which sight I'm going to run right now, but I'm gonna put a sight on for now to get it tuned up for you guys, and we're gonna broadhead tune it. That laser step that I did in the tuning process gets you here super fast as long as you have the correct arrow. You're gonna see on the arrow boxes that it has like 50 to 60 pounds, use this spine, use this spine. That is an excellent starting point. But don't live or die by that. It comes down to more of your cams. So I have some harsh cams that are a little bit faster on your speed bows. I tend to spine up a little bit, and I'll make them weaker by adding weight to the front of the arrow. That's just where I go with it. When it comes to those boxes, a great place to start, but that's not how you're gonna get your bow that comes out of the box like that tuned up absolutely perfect. and we'll check this with a broadhead tune. I feel like a broadhead tune, if you've been in my shop, I think it's more accurate representation of how tuned your bow is than what paper does. This is fine for me. Some of you are gonna go perfect that a little bit on your own. If I'm tuning your bow, obviously I'm gonna perfect that a little bit, but it's because I know I'm going to broadhead tune my bow. That's gonna tell me exactly how my arrow's flying. So we're gonna do that next. All I'm doing is I'm installing a 10 on the front. I think when the engineers design a bow to work as a system, they design it to work as a system, and I like to run their full system. Hoyt, Mathews, whatever. All right, guys, so I installed an HHA here. This is the Tetra. I'm gonna probably switch to a Max if I do this, maybe because you have 2 rings that go on them, but this is to show you a broadhead tune. And I'm trying to show you a full tune on my bow. So I got everything leveled on here, and you can go watch our video on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd axis of an archery sight. But just, Ian will kind of get a quick look right here. We are level on the bow and level on the sight, and that's what we wanted to see. And that's just kind of where you start, and then you'll go watch that video, and it'll give you how to do our 2nd and 3rd axis. And the reason for that is that if we go to an angle on our shot, we want our sight to stay level all the way through at full draw. And there's a little bit of tilt on this one, which we'll adjust later, but we want that level to stay in the middle. And right now it's just a smidge off. We'll adjust that later, but you can watch that 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and that's exactly what we're gonna do on this bow to keep it level. So what your total archery challenges, your uphill, downhill shots, that's what's important. Everybody thinks it's okay to just sit here level. We want it where at those angles, it's level, and when it comes back, it's level. So I'm about to go broadhead tune this bow for you. The first thing I'll do is sight it into 20, and then I'm gonna go to shoot at 20, a broadhead and a fill point, a broadhead and a fill point, a broadhead and a fill point until we make sure it's perfect. All right, so when you're broadhead tuning, kind of know what your group size is with your fill points, and then you're going to shoot your broadhead fill point and try to match that group. Right now, what I'm gonna do is I'm sighting in this sight, and then we're gonna broadhead tune it. And I have everybody that aims for like the entire target. That's not your goal, the broadhead tune. Like you want your fill point and broadhead to be aiming at something super small. When you're broadhead tuning, I don't want you aiming for something as big as this. I want you aiming for like a roofing nail size. So that's the group we're looking for. But let's say your fill point groups are only about this big. That's what you expect your fill point broadhead group to look like. I have guys that shoot fill point groups this big and expect their fill point and broadhead to hit on top of each other. There's a lot that goes into having the right shot execution, you know, all of that good stuff, like Joel Turner stuff, the stuff that Aaron Snyder teaches, Levi teaches about shot, all that matters in your ability to broadhead tune. So if your group of a fill point is that freaking big, don't expect to have a tighter group of fill point broadheads. Like we want to match what our fill point group is, and know that you got some things to work on if that's how big your groups are. And that's just about shooting. We've gone through the bow setup now. We're gonna just get this broadhead tune done. Pretty much there. Now we're gonna aim for that blue dot. Now we're sighted into 20. Now we're gonna shoot a broadhead fill point group, and we'll do a more in-depth follow-up video of this, but we're gonna try to make sure we're broadhead tuned. I've got a slick trick on this bow, or on this arrow, and I'm gonna shoot a fill point and a broadhead group. I'm gonna shoot the broadhead first so my broadhead doesn't tear up the other arrow. We're about as far as we're gonna take this one, and we just think that we need a more detailed video on our broadhead tunes, but let's kind of see. So we paper tuned, we got sighted in, and this will tell you where we need to go next. Say the broadhead's dead on to where we were sighted into with our fill point. But I am very shaky, gosh. All right, we can go look at this broadhead fill point group. I'm very particular, and I'll tell you I'm not super happy with this. Like I want to see this group get better. A lot of it's me shaking right now, so I understand that. That's a good starting point for our 20-yard group. I was sighted into about the nail head with a fill point, and our broadhead hit dead on, as you can see. Hit dead on. And then we hit about 1 finger width lower with our fill point. That's 20 yards. We'll do a follow-up video later with very in-depth broadhead tune where I'll even shoot multiple broadheads to the fill point, and we'll shoot at different distances to kind of show you how we work through that. But I would say right now, my bow, I'm fine with going and shooting. I'm gonna go recheck my broadhead out to distances, but I can go hunt with this bow now. I've still got to sight in the sight all the way out to the distances we need for a sight tape. But this is a good basic start to getting your bow tuned. We'll dive more into this broadhead tune right here. I'm super pleased with it. Obviously, for my shooting, I want them sitting like this at 20, not like this. That's all on my shooting abilities. I'll shoot more this week. We'll shoot an in-depth video on our broadhead tune. I hope this was helpful. If there's anything particular you want me to shoot a video on or more information on that we don't have other videos about, post below, or you want to follow up, let me know. I'll take care of it. Subscribe to us. That helps us know that you are following along. Comment of what you need for us to do to help you get your bow tuned, or any other questions you have, whether you're buying a new bow, etc. Holler at us. That's it on how I tune my bow.